Thanks very much, Juliet. Let's take a look at the markets. Asian markets traded mixed as market players took in poorer than expected U.S. economic data news, while also looking forward to the non-farm payroll jobs number coming out later today. A stronger yen relative to the dollar saw the Nikkei share average lose ground during the week, given that a strengthening currency is negative for exporters, and given that Japan is an exporting nation, this has been a negative trend for that market. But today, the Nikkei ended in positive territory. The Nikkei share average rose by 0.5%. The Hang Seng Index declined by 0.5%, while the Shanghai Composite Index ended flattish, up 0.04%. U.S. markets closed in the red last night. This as investors digested negative data and other developments. The weekly jobless claims number rose to 247,000, the highest in 8 months, while private payroll growth fell short of expectations. Meanwhile, the Tesla share fell by 9% at the close on the back of a public showdown between President Donald Trump and its CEO, Elon Musk, creating jitters around that stock, which has fallen by 25% from the beginning of this year. The Dow Jones Industrial Average declined by 0.25%. The S&P 500 fell by 0.53%, while the Nasdaq Composite Index lost 0.83%. Looking at the local indicators, we see that the all-share index is trading up currently, up 0.1% at 96,541 index points. On the currency front, we see that the rand is trading at 17.75 against the US dollar, 20.28 vis-a-vis the euro, and 24.05 against the British pound. On the commodities front, we see that gold is trading at $3,357 an ounce, platinum at $1,164 an ounce, while Brent crude oil is trading at $65.22 a barrel. All right, let's get into it with Warwick Lucas. He's the head of private clients at Vunani Securities. Thanks very much, Warwick, for joining us. So what are your main reflections on the week that was on global markets? Because, of course, a lot has been happening.
Well, good afternoon to you and the viewers. And, of course, with if we look at this news flow, I think what we're getting used to is that noisy is becoming the new norm, and I think it's becoming less surprising when it is noisy. So, for example, I mean, we of course continue to see fears of a US and China trade war escalation after Trump accused China of violating a recent trade deal, and Beijing rebuked that. And well, how do you negotiate with a persistent purveyor of at times quite random accusations? But be that as it may, I mean, we saw Trump's plan to double tariffs on imported steel and aluminium. Yet again, we saw the Financial Times come out with a new term, the taco trade, referring to Trump always chickens out. So noise is becoming part of the norm. And here's the thing, it's no longer surprising. I think when we turn to the likes of economic data, well, I think the indications I'm seeing for US data are actually a bit more on the upside. I think the anticipation of tariffs and so on, a little bit of stepping back there in terms of fears. The job data looking robust in terms of the JOLTS report. We'll see what official data looks like later, although I'll remind again viewers that monthly data is a bit messy and to treat it with a hint of caution.
Yeah. So what's your take on the Tesla share price? I mean, which is said to be down about 25% this year. Is that really about the antics of its founder and CEO, or or is it something to do with the fundamentals of the company?
Well, I suppose there's a certain point where one wonders if they're intertwined. Just on an aside, I mean, it's quite astonishing that someone can still lose $27 billion and be the richest man in the world with $338 billion left. Shame, poor fellow. There's basically no part of this that can be good for Tesla, because I mean, it reinforces that he's high on IQ and low on EQ. I mean, raising someone up to be president and then try tear them down with allegations of impropriety does smack of moral ineptness. And I mean, potentially, of course, that's a very dangerous enemy. I mean, the threat and the obvious willingness to end subsidies is a problem. Many of Musk's businesses are highly dependent on the regulatory environment. So I can't see a whole lot of good coming out of this.
Yeah. One last look at an issue, the local market doing extremely well. The all-share index having gone through 96,000. I saw an article earlier this morning suggesting that we could hit 100,000 on the bourse sometime this year. What are your thoughts about the performance, and where do you see value even as valuations increase?
Okay, so I think one of the areas that we can look at, and we can look at it in parallel with equity markets, is what are bond markets doing? And bond markets are liking the fact, certainly locally, that inflation is well under control. The economy might not be growing, and the cost of capital is very high, but at least inflation is under control. And the idea that the Reserve Bank might actually have a crack at trying to get structural inflation. I mean, sticky inflation in South Africa has really been a problem for so long. And if we're actually able to kill off structural inflation, there's a big, big win there. And with our economy having been so weak recently with supply side problems, the one plus is it's a chance to really take a swing and put an end to structural inflation for good. So that might be positive.
Good stuff. Warwick, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. That was Warwick Lucas. He's the head of private clients at Vunani Securities.